Why does the new Venom have two big holes in his shoulders?
Well, we're using that mold to make Omega Red, and we have to make this at the same time for, you know, reasons.
You serious?
There's a new street fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace. The word is chill.
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behavior. And today we're going to do something kind of fun. This is going back to the old spirit of the mid-90s. It's Marvel versus DC. It's Hasbro versus McFarlane. Which comic toy line is better? Well, we're going to find out right now. But before we do, that's a contradiction, we're going to find out right now. But first, I just want to say thank you to Katie, who sent me this incredible Venom t-shirt. She sent a letter saying, Dave, love the show, obviously, but you do seem to cycle through the same 4 shirts every single time, so I thought I would send you a new one to add into the rotation. And Katie, that was very generous of you, because actually I cycle through 3. So I am rocking this awesome, badass Venom shirt, and it's also made of this sort of breathable kind of material so that I'm not going to sweat to death while I'm doing these shows. So Katie, thank you so much. Super Bra, Hall of Fame, your place is assured in immortality. I love this. Thank you so much. Now then, it's Marvel versus DC. What are we going to look at? Well, we're going to look at the big pillars, okay? We've got Captain America and Iron Man on the Marvel side, and on the DC side we got Superman and Batman. Now, you could add so many more other characters, but obviously you want to do more of a direct comparison. And it's not always easy to do complete like for like, because of course you've got Hasbro's deluxe figures, you've got the McFarlane bigger sized ones, you know, some come with no accessories, some come with lots and lots. It's a bit awkward, so I'm trying to do the most direct comparison. So with that, we have the 80 years Iron Man and Captain America versus what I kind of consider the flagship versions of Batman and Superman. It is the Action Comics, is it 1000 or 10,000? It's one of those version of Superman and the Jim Lee Batman, which I think are the two kind of iconic versions of those characters from McFarlane. So let's put them together and see which toy line and comic book company is the dominant force in all action figures. Round 1. Packaging. Now, look, okay, I've got packaging here, and of course I've taken the figures out, so you can't sort of see them in all their glory, but we can get a good idea as to what these kind of look like, how they stack up against each other. Now, I know this is not the classic Hasbro Marvel Legends packaging, but at the same time, there's always going to be variants in different things. So I'm going to compare these two together and see how they look. Now then, both of them incorporate classic comic book art, which is wonderful. You've got Iron Man, the Alex Ross artwork here, and on the back we've got the fantastic, I think it's Jim Lee Superman? It might not be, I could be wrong, but either way, it's nice use of the comic characters. But where I think the McFarlane ones pull ahead a little bit is that McFarlane actually has the other figures from the line on the back here. But then again, the Hasbro waves will do that too, so it's, ooh, is it a fair comparison? I don't know, but I'm just going with these guys together. So this has the Alex Ross art, but also it's got the nice art on the back as well. So Superman is on the back, but then there's nothing on the sides. It's not very exciting, it's just writing on the sides. So considering that we get extra artwork on the sides here, I'm gonna say probably the Hasbro one wins out. Also because we have the wonderful comic text of Iron Man and the big 80 years there, which again is just specific to this line. But on the front with the McFarlane ones, it's a lot more kind of, I don't want to say corporate, but more uniform. That's it. You know, Superman isn't written in any kind of Superman font or anything, it's just Superman, Multiverse, DC. It's very by the numbers, which is okay because it is a style that they chose to do. They went, you know what? This is how we're going to present it. But for me personally, I like the big and bold, so I'm going to go with that. But really, now that I think about it, because as you can see, some of this is a bit of a stream of consciousness, I'll show you with the Captain America one as well. Hasbro wins out. Why? Because you can take everything out of the box without ruining it. Whereas with the DC ones, if you want to get to the stand in the back, and don't worry, we'll come to that later, but if you want to get everything out, then unfortunately, you're gonna have to actually rip things, which is a shame if you want to keep things not necessarily mint in box, because that's the whole point of taking it out, but if you want to keep the boxes intact, that's where Hasbro wins. But still, the Batman box looks very cool with the obvious Jim Lee artwork there, but again, nothing really on the sides, so it's not as exciting or pretty, quite frankly, and especially you weirdo in-box collectors that want to keep your figures imprisoned in their carbonite shells. If you sometimes stack the boxes sideways, you get a much better or more interesting picture with the artwork on the sides. So in that regard, Hasbro, you win out. Round 2, initial impressions. All right, let's finally bring these guys head to head and see what we are dealing with. So first of all, in the red corner, we have, weighing 250 pounds, the Sentinel of Liberty, Captain America. And his tag team partner, hailing from whatever address he gave out in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go full Howard Finkel with this. And their opponents, from Gotham City, weighing in 230 pounds, the Dark Knight himself, Batman. And his tag team partner, from Krypton, currently residing in Metropolis, he is Superman. Okay, my Howard Finkel might leave a lot to be desired. But here we go. We have our contestants, our competitors. And you know what? At initial glance, just right off the bat, I'm going to give it to the McFarlane figures. I think the reason for that is twofold. First of all, brightness of the colors. And that's where Superman kind of carries the team here, with the bright, bright colors just radiating off of him with the shiny S as well. Oh my goodness, that just hands down takes your attention. Whereas with the Hasbro paint jobs, they feel a little bit flatter. And I know that, oh my goodness, I could probably just grab from my shelf a random Hasbro figure that's glowing with color, but I'm going like for like with these. So I have to say, Captain America's blue, it's quite muted. Similar to Iron Man, he's kind of got this, he's got a nice sheen, but looks a little plastic. Whereas the DC characters, they seem to have a bit more of a matte kind of finish, which makes them feel a bit more statuesque, or just like they're sort of worth more. I look at them and I'm like, ooh, they look nice. So you know what? Initial impressions, just right off the bat, glance at a figure. Oh, hey, do I want to look at that? Yes, I do. I gotta say, not Hasbro, I'm so, there's no bias here, I swear, but Hasbro was about to just automatically come out my mouth. McFarlane figures win the day on this round. Round 3, Articulation. Now, this is where we really start to get to the technical sides of things and separate the men from the boys and the wheat from the chaff and all that kind of good stuff. So, Articulation is where the money hits. And here, let's take a look at Captain America. You can see we have the standard Hasbro Articulation. But why is it just standard Articulation? Because the standard is really good, I find. You've got all the typical kind of swivels and the double jointed elbows. Ooh, double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, and most importantly, you've got that wonderful ankle pivot and rocker there that allows for such interesting sorts of stances. Again, with the chest, what am I trying to say? The torso. The torso, you have the nice torso crunch as well. The head will tilt back up so he can be leaning forward in a kind of a fighting sort of stance. This is what I am talking about when I'm talking about great articulation. For anyone who wants to get really dynamic poses, you can see how his knees will bend and go right to the back of his thigh there. This is where Hasbro come into their own so well. You've got great range of motion here. The same with Iron Man. Now, all right, cards on the table and an extra bonus point to McFarlane at this juncture. If I'm led to be told correctly, if that's a sentence that makes any sense, Iron Man's biceps are the wrong way round. Is that correct? I can't really tell. Obviously my anatomy is awful when looking at figures, but yeah, I'm told that people should often do like a customizing swap to put them the right way round. If that is the case, then oh my goodness, Hasbro, you get this a lot. I see a lot of people complaining about this, and I'm going to give out about it as well, if that's the case. If it's not, then you can ignore all this. But yeah, the fact that the rumors are to be believed, then there's a lot of like little janky things, which is like, why did you not catch that sooner? Come on, this is your job. So that is a bit of a failure. But for the rest of Iron Man, again, just like Steve Rogers, he's got the great double joints, double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. The head has a lovely range of motion with all of the swivels and the swiveling. He's got wrist articulation too. And again, of course, the upper torso crunch as well. Not a torso swivel, but a torso crunch. Me personally, I actually prefer the crunch to the swivel. I find you can get more interesting kind of semi-crouched kind of poses. I really, really like that. But to each their own in that regard. But certainly if we're giving like a letter grade for articulation, I gotta say that these Hasbro figures, you know, they're gonna get like a A minus, really, really good stuff. So let's take a look at the DC characters. Now then, with the DC McFarlane figures, this is where I feel that sometimes they might drop behind a little bit. And I discovered this when I was looking at the Dark Knight's metal figures too. There's not as much room to play about with articulation. They feel a bit more like statues, like posable statues. They're not that far. They're still action figures, but they're closer than their Hasbro counterparts. You've still got, in Batman for example, the double jointed elbows and the double jointed knees, and maybe it's because both of these figures are rocking capes that I'm mentally thinking, oh, there's not as much articulation because the cape does restrict where you're going to move them around. Although playing around with Batman's hips here, for example, there is a lot more articulation than I originally would have given it credit for. Now, what really kind of bugs me though, and I think it bugs a lot of people, and rightly so, is the ankles. These little ball peg type ankles are so difficult to maneuver, I find, in the right position, because sometimes I'll want to move the foot, but it ends up moving the top of the ankle joint, and I'm like, no, I want that to stay where it is. I just want to rotate the foot around it, and it won't, because it's not psychic and I'm not telekinetic yet. And it's like, no, look, I just want to hold this ankle bit in place and rotate the foot, please. It's fiddly. And then on Batman, for example, and I'll look at Superman too, these look okay, but again, like on Superman, they're quite bally. Like, we used to make fun of Toy Biz with their ball hips. These are ball ankles that it just doesn't look great, is all I'm saying. It doesn't look great, whereas I feel like the Hasbro rockers are much, much stronger in that regard. And similar with the wrists, you've got like the ball wrists, which at least they do allow lots of articulation, so that's okay. And then both Batman and Superman have the torso swivel. So this is an interesting kind of comparison. Rather than having the crunch, they've got the swivel. But, and this is where I think that maybe they feel more like statues, there's not as much, wow, actually I'm discovering things as I do this. This is useful for me. There is more swivel than I originally gave it credit for. Superman can swivel quite far actually, and that looks good on him. As for Batman, maybe it's the cape that restricts it a bit, but I don't feel, there we go. So I see we have hip swivel, sorry, a waist swivel, and we've got some upper torso articulation too. So you know what? I'm finding out more about these figures as I'm doing this comparison. So this is a learning experience for me. I was originally going to just give this hands down to Marvel Legends because I thought, nah, you can do way more with them. But actually, McFarlane, you guys have really gone all out, way more than I was expecting. I'm getting Batman in some cool poses here, and I'm kind of turning around on this. I think one thing that McFarlane definitely have, which Hasbro don't, is the ability to have the toe pivot as well. And this is an interesting one, in as much as you might like it, you might not, because sometimes I feel like it's more than you really are required. But then again, the way that I can sort of perch Batman, if you wanted to put him resting on a gargoyle or something, yeah, you know what? I've just turned myself around. I was going to give this hands down to Hasbro, but actually, McFarlane, I have to say, yeah, they've taken this round, and that is a surprise to me. Round 4, materials. Now, this is an interesting one. I know nothing about materials, alright? Let's just get that out of the way, cards on the table. I don't know a thing about the types of materials, so I can't wax lyrical too much, but looking at these figures, I gotta say, Cap and Iron Man look a little bit cheaper. They have more of a plastic type feel to them, especially Iron Man, because he's wearing armor. It has sort of a chic sheen to it and a shine, which makes it look plasticky. Whereas the DC guys, McFarlane have used more of a matte sort of finish, and I don't know if that's from the paint or the plastic. I don't know these things, alright? But I must say, like when I was talking about initial early impressions, just at a glance, the McFarlane figures look like they're maybe just a little bit more expensive, to be honest. Even though the price, we'll get to that later, is similar, the actual material looks like it's more real, more matte, as opposed to a cheaper looking plastic. So yeah, one thing also I'll say, I'm going to bring out a little surprise run-in in this contest, 80th Thor. And we have the cape for 80th Thor, and I'm going to compare this cape to Superman's. And they're very, 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 very similar. They might be identical material. And capes are always going to be a problem, because some people hate plastic capes, some people don't mind them. I quite like plastic capes. But they do hinder movement. And I was originally going to say McFarlane have nailed it. They've actually made it much easier. It's a softer material for Superman's cape. But comparing them like for like now, I think they might literally be the same material. So I won't go one way or another with those. But for the overall look of the figure, I'm giving it to McFarlane. That matte finish looks so much better than the shinier plastic. Round 5, Paintwork. Now this is very similar to the previous section on materials, and this is a tough one to call because Hasbro's paint jobs can often be really beautiful. You look at even more modern characters like the new MODOK or Ryder's Punisher, Venom Pool, those are excellent. But again, I'm trying to just compare like for like here. But this is where Hasbro do also look like they're doing a great job. Especially, I feel, on the 80th Captain America with really nice, clean lines going on here. I should have mentioned before, the shoulder straps are just additions on my part. I don't want to take them off because I think they look great. But that's not actually included with this figure. But as far as the other paintwork goes, the detailing on the eyes is very delicate. It's well put together. The stripes and the lines are very clean and crisp. The choice of a darker blue is a bit disappointing, but at the same time, it's a stylistic choice. It wasn't a necessity. This is how he looks in the Alex Ross artwork. So I totally get that. And then for Iron Man, you've just got these two, essentially, just two bright, bold colors. And that works okay, but it still doesn't look too detailed. It looks very clean. And just as I suppose you want a classic Iron Man, not battle damaged or anything, but still, because there's no kind of shading or extra detail, I don't even know, again, not an expert, but I don't know if this is even painted or if this is just the color of the plastic he was molded in. Either way, it does feel plastic, which is not surprising. They're made out of plastic, Dave. But the DC ones, on the other hand, these guys with their more matte, I keep saying matte, but I don't know what other vocabulary to use. They feel more real, even though Superman's hair looks like a full-on oil slick. That's, if you want a comparison of matte to gloss, there you go, that slick oil hair there. Bret Hart would be proud of that oily hair. But then we look at the details on the eyes and the lips. It's a really beautifully made face sculpt. And this is where, oh, it's kind of Sophie's choice. We'll take in Batman as well. And Batman, similar to Superman, they've done a great job of painting the lips a different color so that they actually stand out without making it look like they're wearing lipstick. But then again, so have Hasbro. This is almost too close to call, I feel. I think though, since we're doing like for like, I'm gonna give the prize, the no prize, to McFarlane again. And I do bear in mind also, these are more modern figures. They've got about a year. You know, these came out before the 80th ones, so it's not completely contemporary, but it's pretty close, come on. But Superman, the fact that we've got the shiny silver metallic S there as well, which juxtaposes with the matte finish, I think works great. I'm giving this one to McFarlane. I had to think about what I was saying there. Round 6, accessories. And this is Marvel's time to shine. All right, Hasbro, you got it this time, okay? Or have you? Ah, you see, there's a bit of a twist in the tale. Iron Man and Captain America have fantastic accessories. Iron Man, you got 3 heads, baby. That is wonderful. You've got the regular helmet, you've got the pointed helmet, and you've got the Tony Stark head. The options for displaying are so great with this, but that's not all. You also have the different hands. You can have 2 repulsor hands or 2 fist hands, and then you've got the repulsor blasts with the shooting effect and the big bang kind of effect. All of those together look terrific. Yes, I know these are slightly more deluxe-y type figures, so of course they're going to have more accessories, and Lord knows Hasbro can cheap out on the accessories on occasion. But judging for these, they are excellent. Same with Captain America. He's got 2 heads, and I am always finding it a bit funny that both these heads are so similar. I'm like, why did you bother? I really have to look very closely at these heads to kind of pick out the differences, but they are there. Then of course you've got the shield, which, I mean, that's just part of the figure. But then you've got extra hands as well, and you've got the whoosh shield effect, which I don't have to hand here. I'm sure it's at the bottom of my accessories bin somewhere. But it's a nice addition to have. On the other side of the coin, we got McFarlane's Batman and Superman, and this is where they fall down a little bit. Batman only has his grapple gun. Like, that's it. Oh, and he has the Batarang. Alright, he has the grapple gun and the Batarang. So that's good. Those are good accessories. But compared to the Hasbro ones, not as much. I'm just going for quantity of styling and posing options here. And that's where it isn't quite as impressive. Also, the fact that you only have 1 head. Alright, Iron Man's got 3 heads. So, you know, you do the math. And easily McFarlane aren't matching up to that. Another Batman head would have been great, because I'm not actually a huge fan of this particular Batman head. I would have liked something maybe a little bit bigger and maybe some more interesting kind of facial expression. Similar for Superman. Come on, guys. This would have been a really easy extra head to have the red laser eyes, maybe more of a kind of look. And I know you can do it because you did it with the Doomsday 2-pack. And of course, that's more sort of Hasbro logic where it's like, well, we can't give you everything you want in the one figure because then you won't buy the next version of it. I get it. That's how the world works. It's commerce, be a part of the system, just love the thrill ride. But it does mean that in this instance for accessories, Hasbro, or do they? Because what McFarlane have coming in their corner is stands. Oh, such an easy win. Look at this stand that Superman goes on. This is fantastic. And there's as much plastic in this, if not more, than any other blast effect or anything else. It just comes with a stand. That is wonderful, absolutely terrific that you can just put them on there. And this is a heavy duty, this is a heavy stand, this is really well put together. And then for Batman, you've got the single disc, which is all you need, and a flight stand would be great, but the fact that you've got the disc is just wonderful, and that would be so easy, Hasbro. So many of your figures, especially the ladies with their high heels, so difficult to stand up and balance. Just throw a little disc of plastic in there and it makes life so much easier. Then you also have the trading cards that come with the McFarlane figures, which I don't necessarily need them, but it's nice to have them. They just sit with the rest of my accessories. But the fact that you're throwing that little extra little tidbit in there, that's really nice. In fact, it's nice enough that McFarlane in this round, oh my goodness, they have taken it again. Congratulations, McFarlane. Now, on to one of the penultimate, if not final rounds. I'm not keeping track. Round 7. Price. Now for price, this is very kind of controversial at the moment. And again, some figures cost more, deluxe figures, regular figures, it all sort of mixes up a little bit. But generally, we're looking at the £20 to £25 range with a recent update having just come in, a little price hike, which is, you know, par for the course. It would be nice if salaries went up at that rate, but that's the world we live in. What are we going to do? I can't fix everything, guys. I'm just an action figure reviewer, and an average one at that, but I do bring the bants. So, looking at the price, it's actually pretty even, I would say. Marvel Legends, you know, you can say like, oh, accessories maybe not as good, or they are better in some regards. It's too close to call. I would say, honestly, maybe, just in a nickel and dime, kind of looking at what goes into it. Again, McFarlane, they're slightly bigger as well. I know that McFarlane figures are closer to 7-inch, whereas Hasbro ones are more 6-inch. So they are just bigger figures, and they cost a similar amount. So with that in mind, I gotta once again give it to McFarlane. Round 8. The toy line itself. Okay, Marvel Legends versus DC Multiverse. With this, actually easy, hands down. It's Marvel Legends. Why? Choice, selection. Oh my goodness. We moan and bellyache about the marketing practices, or at least I do, I'm talking for myself here, so much. But what Hasbro have been able to do, by nickel and diming us sometimes, is give us so much variety. Is incredible. The obscure characters that we have got to build this incredible world. Absolutely amazing. Whereas McFarlane, they're kind of just finding their groove at the moment. And I think they can, you know, we can see big things from them. And they will probably, in order to facilitate doing obscure characters, they might have to go the sneaky, you know, make a great baff in a terrible wave type route in order to facilitate figures that wouldn't sell on the mass market just kind of on their own. I get it. It's the game we play, and we don't hate the players, we just love the game. So right now, as a toy line, I think Hasbro is way far ahead. Although, Hasbro is like perhaps the WWE, whereas they are the industry leader who are just doing the same thing. They've got their tactics and their schedules, and they're just rolling with it. Whereas McFarlane is more like AEW, where they're just getting started, and they're like, we are going to bring something new to the table that's going to shake things up a bit. And we might only be here, and you're like, here? But we're starting to gain that traction, and they're gaining the traction with me because I'm not a DC guy. I probably won't even buy any more of these figures because I just don't have that nostalgic attachment to DC. But that's where you can see that this is a very honest review, because Marvel Legends are my bread and butter. That's what started all of this. So I love Marvel Legends way more than McFarlane DC. But trying to call it down the middle, like Fonzie, baby, right down the middle, daddy. That's a very dated ECW reference. But I gotta say, McFarlane are coming up fast. I'm excited to see what they do with the DC license moving forward.
Final verdict.
And the voting is complete. The judges' decisions are in. The scorecards have been checked. And overall, encompassing all the different factors that we've looked at, the winner of this is McFarlane DC. Oh, it even pains me to say it, my beloved Marvel Legends, but McFarlane, right now, as of this moment, I feel, as a like-for-like comparison, are bringing more to the table. Can Hasbro just change a few things and beat them? Absolutely they can. In fact, I'm daring you, Hasbro, to start making some more interesting, cool, value for money products that we can go, oh, okay, this just blows McFarlane out of the water. This is smashing McFarlane. Especially if McFarlane don't start fixing the ankle joints, because I'm just not a fan of those. But everything else, like, they're really doing well throughout the whole McFarlane DC line. Are there some good figures and great figures and some bad figures? Yeah, there's a few duds in there, but also there's some amazing creative stuff. I didn't even talk about reuse because I'm comparing just two like sets of figures. But reuse, Hasbro have a lot of reuse, whereas McFarlane don't seem to have as much reuse at all. So again, when we're talking value for money, gotta go with McFarlane on that. So I hope that just like AEW is doing to WWE, I hope that McFarlane are giving Hasbro a bit of a kick up the bum, even though that was a... never mind. I'm not going to edit that. I hope that McFarlane are going to give Hasbro the boot that they need to think, okay, you know what, lads? We need to up our game. We can't keep resting on our laurels. Let's really bring the thunder. Because if they do, Hasbro can smoke the competition, no problem, I feel. Because I'm a Hasbro fanboy. But until they do, right now, congratulations, McFarlane. You are my personal pick for industry leader out of these two for now. I'm not going to be able to fit that on a trophy, but you get the idea. And folks, that was my DC versus Marvel, Hasbro versus McFarlane comparison contest. I hope you enjoyed it. I went on way longer than I was expecting, but I had a lot to say, so I hope you enjoyed all of my ramblings. If you did, then please click like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on a single episode of Model Behaviour. And if you really enjoyed this show, you can go over to patreon.com/displaying model behavior, and you can join the list of these legends who are pledging a few pounds every month to support the channel and also get access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos on Patreon, which is actually just kind of like a thank you for throwing a few shekels my way. But there is some fun stuff up there which I'm updating regularly, more regularly than I was. I'm trying to improve that. So I have just done a Black Widow review of the movie, that's up there. And also for you old school fans who enjoyed the Legends Legacy reviews, I'm going to start doing those again as a Patreon exclusive. So you can check those out over on Patreon. But in the meantime, guys, keep it locked to the main channel for all the main news, stories, reviews, features, all that crazy stuff that I like to bring. And also, if you want a little extra chat about figures and whatnot, you can go over and join the, the Discord. Yes, the Discord, the Displaying Model Behavior Discord. The link is in the description below. Really great people on there, fantastic admins, and just lots of people who love to talk about action figures. Guys, I'm out of breath. Until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Chill.
So, it is down to you, and it is down to me. If you wish her dead, by all means, please keep walking forward.
Let me explain.
There's nothing to explain. You are trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen.
Perhaps an arrangement can be reached.
There will be no arrangement. And you're killing her.
Well, if there can be no arrangement, then we are at an impasse.
I'm afraid so. I cannot compete with you physically, and you are no match for my brains.
You're that smart.
You ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates? Morons.
Really? Well, in that case, I challenge you to a battle of wits.
For the princess? To the death? I accept.
Good. Then pour the wine. Inhale this, but do not touch.
I smell nothing.
What you do not smell is called iocane powder. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and is among the more deadly poisons known to man. Where is the poison? The battle of wits has begun. It ends when you decide, and we both drink. We find out who is right and who is dead.
But it's so simple. All I have to do is divine from what I know of you. Are you the sort of man who would put the poison into his own goblet or that of his enemies? Now, a clever man would put the poison into his own goblet, knowing that only a complete fool would reach for what he has given. I, of course, am not a complete fool, so I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of you. Of course, you would have known that I am not a complete fool. In fact, you would have counted on it, so I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of me.
You've made your choice, then?
Not remotely, because iocane comes from Australia, and as everyone knows, Australia is populated entirely with criminals. And criminals are used to having people not trust them, just as you are not trusted by me, so I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of you.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Wait till I get going! Where was I?
Australia.
Right, Australia. And you must have suspected that I would have known the powder's origin, so I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of me.
You're just stalling now.
You would like to think that, wouldn't you? You bested my giant, which means you're exceptionally strong. So you could have put the poison in your own goblet, trusting on your strength to save you. But you also beat my Spaniard, which means you must have studied. And in studying, you would have learned that man is mortal, so you would have wanted to put the poison as far away from yourself as possible, so I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of me.
You're trying to trick me into giving away something. It won't work.
It has worked. You've given everything away. I know where the poison is.
Then make your choice.
I will, and I choose... What in the world could that be?
What? Where?
Oh,
I don't see anything.
I could have sworn I saw something. No matter.
What's so funny?
I'll tell you later. But first, let's drink. Me from my glass, and you from yours.
You guessed wrong.
Ha ha! You only think I guessed wrong. That's what's so funny. I switched glasses when your back was turned. You fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous being, never get involved in a land war in Asia. But only slightly less well known is this. Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha!
Are you?
I'm no one to be trifled with. That's all you ever need know.
And to think all this time it was Mcfarlane that was poisoned.
They were both poisoned. I spent the last year building up an immunity to Kayakane powder. This way!
As you wish.